All right, I think we are live. Welcome everyone. Today we are going to be repairing this PC. This computer just came into the shop. It's been having an issue with screen tearing within the Windows installation, as well as a few other weird issues with some stability with different RAM configurations, as well as a few other things. So today we're going to be running through all of them, and we're going to get this repaired for the customer. So I just wanted to give a couple minutes to let everybody come in and we'll get started. So this system, just to run down with what we're dealing with, we actually have a bunch of extra hardware from the customer that we're just basically going to get a working system up and going. So we have this system here, and we even have another motherboard and case over here, and we have a couple graphics cards and some RAM from the customer, and we're going to make sure this all works. So right now, the two main issues, and I'm hoping you guys will be able to see this, is that in the Windows installation, I don't know if you can see this, but that white line that's being kind of drawn over here, this is screen tearing from the mouse. Basically, it's not responding properly. And there's a couple different things that could be going on. The customer said they've already tried swapping motherboard, they've swapped RAM, they've swapped pretty much everything except for the SSD and the power supply, which we will both of them be testing and possibly swapping out if necessary. But I did want to go ahead and just show you exactly what was going on. So it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if this will give you a better view of it. But if I basically just move the mouse around, it just kind of creates this dragging path. And this is just a form of screen tearing that can happen, but it is kind of odd to see it within the Windows install. So and then the other issue is the actual RAM configuration. The customer said that only the very last slot works for RAM. So if you have the first, second, or third slots, which the second and the last slot are the preferred, it will not boot. You'll get an error code, so that could also be something that's going on. So that's kind of what we're going to be dealing with here. Thanks for stopping by. And if you guys have any questions about tech, we're going to be talking about them as we go through this issue. So let me go ahead and just, looks like we are good. So with the issue going on here, the first couple things I'm going to want to go through is I want to see if this will happen first on a different solid state drive. And then I want to go ahead and try swapping a few other configurations. I think there might be something to do with power because of some of the instability that the customer was talking with when it would boot, when it wouldn't boot. So we're just going to try a couple different things. So let's go ahead and get started. So with this system, let's go ahead and move the monitor out of the way. And I think we're going to need a little more light down here. Let me go ahead and add a little more light. There we go. All right, that should light the system up just a little bit better. But yeah, so the system here, pretty basic system, but we do need to go ahead and go through everything. So let's go ahead and start running a couple different tests. I'm gonna actually lay it on its back just so we can do a top-down view. It'll probably be easier to see me pulling everything in and out. Let's go ahead and let's shut the system right off. And we'll pull power and display and the Ethernet that we were using. And then I will lay this flat down and we will swap over to this view here. All right, so this was the issue that we were seeing here. It's only this last slot that will work with the RAM configuration. The customer has already tried BIOS update, CMOS reset, pretty much a lot of the common things that you would want to do. So they they're pretty familiar with building computers. So we'll we're gonna have to we'll still go over everything. But there are a couple things that we did want to kind of just already rule out. So let me just show you some of the errors that we were getting. So if I were to, let's just say we add the extra stick of RAM that actually matches this kit. We'll go ahead and throw that into the second slot there. That is the proper RAM configuration for this motherboard, for 2 sticks of RAM. And I don't even need the plug-in display, but if I just power this guy up, you're gonna see that we get a 0D, and basically the LED indicator for the diagnostic light is stuck on RAM. It doesn't matter what configuration, always will get the exact same issue. So that's kind of what's been going on, just this little bit, with what we're dealing here. So let's go ahead and start changing some stuff out. We have some other RAM I wanted to go ahead and try. I have some that is kind of just spare testing RAM that I usually keep on hand. So I have some other Corsair LPX we can try. I also got some spare power supplies, just so we can go ahead and rule everything out, and we have that spare motherboard if we need it. So let's go ahead and try swapping the RAM out with some known good RAM that I have here. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, we can go ahead and shut this guy down. Let's pull power, and we can pull out the customer's RAM modules. Set those off to the side, and then we can put the 2 Corsair Vengeance sticks that I have on hand. All right. Let's fire this up. And we're getting the exact same error. So this is kind of what the customer was telling me with what was happening. It didn't matter what they would do. It just always went to the same issue unless it was set to the proper configuration. So let's, or to the, an improper configuration with just the last stick of RAM being installed. So let's go ahead and let's move on to trying a couple other things. So we can pull my RAM out, and we'll put the customer's back in just so we don't have to worry about that variable being changed. At least not for now. So probably the first thing we can try is just seeing if maybe power has anything to do with it. Just because this is a pretty basic power supply, and you never know. So let's go ahead and just pull out power here. Yeah, it can definitely be CPU or motherboard. That is definitely a possibility when you're dealing with these situations. RAM can, because it can be actually a slot issue. But the weird thing is the customer ran this exact same configuration on this motherboard over here that's in this case, and they had the exact same issue within Windows 11. So I'm assuming, this could be, and he said that this motherboard was previously being used in another system and it was perfectly fine. Yeah, so there's GPUs that the GPU can definitely be an issue, but the customer actually brought another GPU that they had already tested with. So a lot of the basic stuff has already been taken care of, which does kind of make things easier for me, but I do still have to go through everything. So I'm gonna grab probably the power supply that's been in probably more videos than any other component. And this is just one I use for, these type of testing situations. Let's see if let's go ahead and get this guy plugged. Luckily we only need to plug in 4 or 3 cables. So how are you guys doing today? Let's go ahead and swap that one. So we need, you guys having a good Saturday? All right. We'll set this one right up top. Plug that in. And we need our CPU cables. Here's one. And one. And then we got another one right here. Kind of a tight fit in this case. I think this is a Corsair 200R, which is a good case. This is just kind of a little, kind of a large motherboard for this case. Even though it is ATX, it does have some large heat sinks, which can make things a little more challenging to work with. Yeah, we can try disconnecting the drives next, actually. There's only one drive, it's just an M.2 drive, so possibly could be causing some issues. But we'll go through everything. So everything is connected here. Let's go ahead and just grab, and this is, the reason I want to try this is just because the customer said this is the only thing they were unable to test because they didn't have a spare power supply. So we're going to go and connect that there. And let's see if this fires up. Like we're getting that same air. So it seems like it may not be a power supply issue. Still very odd. So, but let's go ahead and let's disconnect this power supply and we'll kind of move on, or we'll leave this connected because I know this works. So we can leave this connected for now. And then let me go ahead and let's try removing that drive like you suggested. Let's grab a screwdriver, your small one. All right, so let's flip that switch, turn things off. And then we'll just take this little drive out. This is a Samsung 970 Evo Plus drive. These drives are generally not bad with their quality standard, so I wouldn't be too worried about it, but you never know. Let's go ahead and reconnect power supply. See if we're getting anything different. See if we're still getting that same thing. All right, what we can do is we can go down another level at this point, and we can disconnect anything non-essential. That's kind of usually what I want to do. What I usually like to do in these circumstances is when we're kind of going through and testing a bunch of things, is I just want to get things to the bare minimum where I know everything in the system should work. You know, the key thing being should. So let's go ahead and go ahead and do that. So what we can do is disconnect. Basically, we can disconnect USB devices. There's not really a whole lot connected. We can actually even remove that graphics card just from the entire scenario to see if that makes a difference. So let's go ahead and try that right now. So let's go ahead and pull power. We're going to pull this card out. And it's kind of a tight case to get the card out. So let's pull that card out. We don't need that for right now. It's not necessary for the system to actually post. We want to get past the RAM error. That's really what I'm looking for right now. Yeah, see, we're right back to it. We're getting that 0D once again. So let's go ahead and we'll continue with trying to swap a couple other things. Because I don't think it's the CPU. I mean, the customer said that, you know, it's kind of odd for the CPU to cause the system to go ahead and be... Yeah, we did try clear CMOS already. The customer did that as well. We can do that right now. There is a clear CMOS button on the system. And we can even remove that CMOS battery right now and do it manually. So let's go ahead and just pop that right out. And this will be a good time to show off. I have a CMOS battery tester, or just, it's really just a basic battery tester, but I love to use these. sometimes you have a dead battery, but that one's perfectly fine. But yeah, we can go ahead, put that CMOS battery right back in. We'll fire up. Let's see if we get anything different. Nothing. So we're still stuck on the exact same issue with the RAM configuration, which I believe is probably playing a role in that, in the issue that we were seeing within the Windows environment. So let's go ahead and let's disconnect a couple other things, and then we can try, we could try bringing my RAM back in at that point, just to see, if we're able to get things back up, and then we can rebuild from there. And if we need to, we can swap to the other motherboard and just see how things are going. So let's go ahead and turn off power. We're gonna go ahead and just pull out HD audio. We don't need that. We also do not need USB 3. And same error. If you guys can see that again, we're still stuck on that 0D right there. So we're gonna go ahead and this is what the customer was dealing with for, a number of days now. So let's go ahead and let's pull RAM. So this is theirs. We got the exact same kit basically. So, and as the motherboard manual expressed, it should be slots 2 and slots 4. So this CPU does not have integrated graphics. So that is not an option here. I believe this is a 5600X Ryzen processor. So definitely, not an option. And the thing is, we don't necessarily need graphics out to get past this error. This error should be completely separate. So yeah, see, it's still getting that same issue. So let's go ahead, we'll pull down that power supply. And we'll go back to the multicam. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and watch. If I go to just this final slot with my RAM, we should actually get a post. And we do. It's probably just gonna get, yeah, I have a couple test benches that we can plug the RAM into. The thing is, I know my RAM works, which is what I'm kind of betting on right now. So usually if I know my RAM is going to work, it's because I've used it before. This is RAM that I've tested with, and I have a couple other 6 that I've used all the time. I have ones that were just being ran for test yesterday. So we can kind of rule a lot of stuff out by doing it this way. That's why I keep so many parts on hand. So let's go ahead. I have a kit of Crucial Ballistics. This is just really basic RAM. I don't, this is really cheap basic RAM, but I always keep this on hand for testing things. But we can go ahead, we can throw it in there. I know this one works for sure. I was pretty certain on that Corsair one, but you never know. So let's go ahead and fire that up. And we're back to the 0D if I switch back to the top view. So yeah, we're back to the exact same issue. So that would generally indicate to me we're dealing with something on motherboard CPU side. Just because even though because what we've done at this point is we have eliminated every single variable outside of basically 2 things, which is the motherboard and CPU. We went ahead and reset the CMOS. We went ahead and disconnected everything out of the system that is not necessary. We put in a power supply that I know that works, RAM that I know that works, and that should have no issue allowing us to go any further. So at this point, what we're gonna do is, because we have that other motherboard, I wanna go ahead and just pull the CPU out. Let's connect everything over on that board and kind of see how well it runs over there. And maybe for some reason there was an issue with this board, but we'll have to go ahead and go through a little bit more testing. So let's go ahead and let's pull the system apart, and then we'll go ahead and move this CPU over. Yeah, reseating the CPU might do it too. I want to see how well it's mounted. So let's check that out actually. Let's do that. So we'll go ahead and, because the system, the weird thing is the system does boot, just in a weird configuration. It has to be the last slot on the motherboard. So these aren't very screwed in. These the cooler isn't mounted very well. So CPU clearly had thermal paste put on properly. It is very, just a clean spread. So that was done. But let's go ahead and let's clean some stuff off. Got some isopropyl alcohol here. And then we'll take just a towel with that. I'm gonna wipe the CPU down. Yeah, and we can just give it a quick reseat just to see if we can get it. Yeah, so it's a 5600X that was under there. Let's go ahead and pull this guy right up. Let's check the pins. There does not appear to be any damage to the pins here. It looks pretty good from what I can see. And it was definitely installed properly, but we can go ahead and just put it back in there. We are going to have to stand the system up to go ahead and put the cooler back on. The cooler was a little loose. I really doubt that the CPU is getting hot enough that quick to have any real issues from that. So let's go ahead and flip this system up. And we'll have to just grab the mounting hardware in the back. Let me go ahead and get you guys a multi-view. So we got to hold this guy in the back. And I will grab some thermal paste. Just some kind of tight, there we go. All right, we got plenty of thermal paste on there in the back. And let me go ahead and just put this cooler on just to get the mounting process going. And just gotta hold this here. All right, let me just get a screwed in down here at the bottom. If you guys are just joining, I just wanted to let you know what the issue was that we are dealing with here. So the customer brought in this PC because they had already done a bunch of testing on it. They had built the computer and they were getting an issue with when installing Windows 11. They were getting weird artifacting and mainly tearing, screen tearing. And but But the other weird thing was they had already swapped out a bunch of hardware for hardware they had known that worked, that was in another system. And all of a sudden they were getting an issue with where only the last RAM stick would work. So where the last slot. So that's kind of been the main issue that we've been dealing with, is just kind of figuring out why that RAM issue is happening, and then we'll kind of dive into the Windows issue afterwards, just because they possibly could be related. And what we just did now was we reseated the CPU. And this bracket does not want to screw down all the way. Let me go ahead and grab a different screwdriver. Make things a little easier. Yeah, honestly, I don't like Windows 11 either. I have not had I just had some weird scenarios with it. With how it's been installed, implemented, some weird crashing. But the customer does want it on Windows 11, so. All right. So we got that cooler mounted. And let me flip this down. Let's switch over to your top view. And what we're gonna do here is just, we're plugging in, we don't really care about any kind of graphics or anything right now. All that matters to us is making sure we get past that error code on post. So let's see if reseating did anything. So we got different. Hey, might have just did it. That's a really good sign. Okay, let's put this system back together piece by piece, because this is exactly what I was looking for. So let me put the customer's RAM back in. Let's make sure it still does it. And then we'll kind of go from there. But that might have just done it right there. It could have been a weird issue with how the CPU was sitting. Let me just see. I think the cooler could be installed a little further. Yeah, hey, you got it right there, Sean. All right, let me go ahead and let's switch the view to multi-view. It's kind of, all right, let's go ahead and flip that power switch. We'll pull my RAM out. That is why, if you can ever hold on to some spare components for testing, it can save you a lot of time. Things like RAM, very, very, very helpful. Especially if you ever have to do any kind of diagnostic work yourself. Just keeps them on hand, and it definitely save you a lot of time because you can just know it's good. Because it's very rare for RAM just to go bad out of sync. Yeah, it does take just one pin. That is the thing. You can actually get lucky with where, some pins aren't always being used, but. So we're back with his RAM. We are getting the right, yep, there we go. We passed the DRAM. Perfect. So let's put this system back together with everything that he has, and then we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and flip power, and we'll pull all of our power supply stuff out of here. Because if we need to bring it back, we can. It's not a big deal. Let me go ahead and show you guys what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and drop this power supply off to the right side, and then we will get See, the thing is, on this motherboard, I don't know if you guys can see it back here, it does have a 8-pin plus a 4-pin. That 4-pin is not completely needed. It's not absolutely needed. It will be necessary if you were doing any kind of overclocking, but it is not needed to actually boot the system in most cases, especially on a lower wattage CPU, because we're on a 5600X. If we were dealing with like probably a Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 9, it would absolutely be necessary just because of how much power they are drawing, or there would just be no overhead room. All right, so we got his power almost back together. And then let's do a quick test with his power. Just make sure we're not missing anything. Let's flip the switch and power up. All right, C8, that's a good sign. Yep, we passed. So what I'm looking for here is, you see those little LEDs in this top right here? What was happening before is we were getting stuck on the very first LED. That LED indicates an issue with DRAM. Right now it's just mad because there's no bootable device or VGA, but we have that disconnected for a reason, but that part has been verified now. So let's go ahead and let's proceed from here. So we're gonna go ahead and add in a couple of the next couple things that he had. We'll leave a lot of the extras disconnected for now. So we'll just get a GPU and his SSD back installed, just because those two are essential because there's no integrated graphics. All right, so we got the SSD installed here. Pretty easy with these M.2 drives, just a single screw. Yeah, I've had some weird issues with, CPUs not needing to be reseated before. So, it's not completely out of the ordinary for one of these situations to happen, but you just never know, especially when you're swapping components a lot. If you're trying to repair something, it can absolutely happen, and it can just be as simple as just not getting it to sit all the way down, and making sure that you're in a very secure spot. So let's go ahead and grab this graphics card. We will grab power here. I think we just all right. Everything should be connected. Let's go ahead and just fire up. And we're just touching the cable there. But that is a good sign. We are posting. Let me go ahead and check if we're getting display out. That was the next thing I want to see. I think we will. Let me go ahead and switch your view, guys. Are we getting anything? We don't have any LEDs stuck on here. We aren't getting anything up on the screen, but let's go ahead and... Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for stopping by. Let's take a look. So if we look here, we are on AA, which is usually a good sign, but we aren't getting any display out yet. Let's go ahead and just do just a quick restart. We will just see if we can get to the BIOS. I think we're going to be able to. Let me go ahead and switch your guys' view. All right. And this works. Hey Rami, how you doing? All right, let me move some stuff around a little bit just so I can slide this down. I'm working on actually getting a capture card for these situations just to kind of show you, but we are in the BIOS, which is a great sign. I did want to see in here, let's see, this is the mouse for this one, is if we were seeing both sticks of RAM, and we are, which is a great sign right there. And the one thing I did notice before, so the system did boot before, and I did go into the BIOS right before the stream, and I did notice the CPU temperature was really, really high. Right now we're at 47 degrees Celsius, which is warm, but we are on the, but we are on a stock cooler with the 5600X. We probably could repaste it if we need to. I just want to make sure that this thing is up and working. So let's go ahead and the core voltage is a little high. That's something I do want to come back to. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and just set things back to optimize defaults. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and exit out of here. Oh yeah? Where are you at? Where do you repair computers out of? What area or state or country? Where are you at? So we're loading up Windows 11, and the biggest indication here is to know if we're going to get that tearing. That tearing was happening within the installation. Basically, as we would drag the mouse along, it would get this kind of streaking path, kind of like where we were before. So let's go ahead and let that load up. If you guys have any other questions or you guys want to talk about anything, let me know. We're kind of just waiting right now for Windows to load. Oh, Gary, oh, cool. Have you seen this issue before? So we basically have, let's see if it's work. Ah, we're getting the same thing. See, this is interesting. We are getting screen tearing. The customer said they already swapped graphics cards. But the system is working with the RAM, which is a good sign. But yeah, I don't know if you guys can see this. It's it's really hard to show on camera. Let me see if I can put it right up in center. But basically, if I go, oops, I just shut it off. If I take the mouse along the white part, you can kind of see that there's, I don't know if you guys can see those around there. They're kind of just like trail lines. It's kind of just like painting it almost, but it's kind of weird. So that has not fixed the main issue, but we have at this point resolved the RAM issue, which was just done by reseating the CPU, which I'm really happy with, but we can just kind of continue from here. So the customer said they already tried reinstalling Windows multiple times. I'd like to do that one more time. So let's go ahead and grab a Windows installation media. So I have one right here. And let's go ahead and let's go ahead and pull these cables on the way. Boom. All right. So let's go ahead and just restart real quick. And then we'll go ahead and load up, and we're going to boot onto that flash drive with the Windows installation. That was just done about 10 minutes before the stream, so that's about 50 minutes ago. So we're going to have the latest version of everything, which is always good. Always a good starting point. I might adjust the camera just a little more so it can see what we're looking at. So we are getting stuck on 9.4. That's weird. Getting a weird error. Let me go ahead and see if I can show you guys this. where did the we're getting 9.4, which we can definitely look up, or if you guys want to look that up for me, that is for an Asus motherboard. Let's just restart. Let's just reboot. You said you're repairing nasty PCs? What's an example of a nasty PC? Just really dirty? All right. So we're stuck on. It's weird with the graphics card. Now we're getting no display out. Let's go ahead and. Oh, really? Yeah, SDR memory is definitely old. If we were to use two different RAMs of similar size but different frequencies, well, basically, in most cases, you're not going to run both. You're not going to be able to run both of them at the higher frequency. Usually, you can just run both of them at the same frequency if that's what they're rated. If they have the rated for it, and most of the times, if you just plug them in, they're going to default back to just the factory settings, or the motherboard's base frequency, which for DDR4 is like 2133. But if you do have a RAM kit that is much further, you can usually match them up within the BIOS. But, you know, instability with mixing RAM can depend. It depends on manufacturer, as well as a few other things. But for the most cases, I haven't had too many issues with stability here, with, you know, mixing frequencies. Most of the time it just ends up running at the default frequency or at the lower one. Let's see. All right, we're booting. Oh, I want to do. I think this is going to fix it. All right. Go ahead and hit delete here. All right, let me go ahead and try to start automatic repair. We're going to go ahead and we want to go to the BIOS. There we go. Now you guys can see a little bit more of what I'm working with. So we need to go. Thank you very much. You're clearing out your data. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's. I would check. You know, if they're the same. If they're the same brand, same capacity. You know, the only thing is 5200 megahertz. You know, is that DDR4? Just because I didn't see a lot of that fast memory for DDR4. Let's see real quick. We lose the mouse. All right, move it over here. There we go. So let's go ahead and hit exit, or let's go to boot. We're going to go ahead and do a quick override. We're going to go ahead and go to that UEFI USB partition. That is that flash drive. Any other questions from anybody? It is kind of, I don't know if it looks like it may have just froze. We can try one more time. And I have one other clean install I just made, which we can try. And then I have, you know, a different SSD that I also want to try out, see if that makes a difference. Go ahead and grab some water. Yeah, well, you're not going to have 3200 DDR5, so you're not going to be able to mix DDR4 and DDR5. That's not going to be a possibility. So we are in error 94 here. Let's restart. That was a weird popping noise I just heard from the graphics card. It does seem to be getting stuck on that graphics card a lot. Let's swap it out for something I know that works. Just because that is one variable we really haven't. Oh, that was just the cable that was making that noise. Let's go ahead and let's grab a graphics card. I have a, I think a 1650, or let's just, here, I got a 3060 Ti. This is actually a card that just got pulled. This is weird how little space there is with getting this card out. All right, let's go ahead and swap it in for this one. All right, power. And we can fire up oh, I'm not plugged in. Missing video. That's probably why. All right, so we are go to multi. You do have some video coming through. All right, let's go to the BIOS, hopefully. Is weird. We are. Oh, just restarted. It's kind of weird how the behavior of this system. I know we just swapped hardware. Sometimes that can cause it taking a second, but yeah, it's still stuck on the VGA issue. Let's go ahead and flip power. Let's go ahead and try swapping the power cable just in case that's causing the issue. Sometimes that will be an issue for these systems. All right. So we are on the green indicator, which is picked an old PC with a dead card. There's a lot of problems that can come from it. I picked up a cheap one for testing. There was no problems. Yeah. you can definitely get a lot of issues from a bad card. So I know this 3060 Ti works. It literally just came out of a system like 2 days ago. So it's a definitely not the cause. What we can do is I want to try that next PCIe slot, and we can also go back to the other power supply. Yeah, see, I'm not even getting to the BIOS. It's just resetting after it's trying to boot. I do have an idea. Sometimes you can go ahead and force the BIOS if you actually remove the bootable media. So I don't really need that right now. Let's just see if that happens to load faster. Yeah, so that loaded. That is interesting. So that, let's see, is this screen fine? Okay. Let's let's throw in a different drive. I'm wondering if we are just, that was what was causing it. Let me go ahead and let's open up this Western Digital black drive, just because we can go ahead and slot this guy right in without any issue. This is a really, really fast drive too. This is their SN850X. And it is a incredibly fast drive, if you guys can see here. Let me go ahead and switch to the top view. Yeah. I was actually gonna, hopefully this, I was gonna be using this actually for a video where I'm gonna actually be testing, does it make sense to have a heatsink on your SSD? So just for, if you guys tuning in, that's kind of an upcoming project I'm working on. So I want to know, for, you know, the average person, will you see a performance increase, or are the temperatures enough to make a difference? I will tell you, based on early iterations of Gen 5 drives, I can tell you for sure that that's going to be the future. But in Gen 4 drives did run hot, but they were not, they didn't need the, they don't absolutely necessarily need it. But I do want to do some prolonged testing to see how well that would actually work. There are things like water-cooled SSD water blocks, which is something I did want to try. All right, that loaded. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to install Windows on this drive. And we're going to see if that solves our issue. So we probably should swap that card back. Let's wait on that. I just thought about it. We need to swap back to their card. Because this will, and if we need to, we can come back to my card. See, I love these protective covers that manufacturers have decided to put on these motherboards. However, they make it a pain to get a graphics card out, especially if they don't give you enough vertical height from the case, which something I do think needs to be addressed hopefully in the future. Just because it is just like on this, like for instance on this case, it is kind of a challenge every single time to, you know, to plug in the graphics card, or to get the graphics card in and out, which is something you don't have to do very often, but when you do, it'd be nice to make it nice and easy. All right, let's go ahead and fire this up. And we have the new SSD installed. And we're gonna see if, we're gonna check the behavior. We're gonna keep everything else as the same. Only thing we've done that has made a significant impact was we swapped out the, or we went ahead and reseated the CPU. That made a big impact. And right now we're waiting for, it looks like it's restarting. Typically we should get a video out here. Not getting anything. If we need to, we can. There we go. Just go ahead and swapping the 8-pin. Sometimes they can, you never know. So the thing is, we get this initial, look at initialization, and then, you know, it tries to boot. There we go. All right, let's see if that works. And the way we're gonna know is once we get into the installation, and it was about, it's usually right after the second screen. So, you know, like you select your country, you know, your region, you know, country, region, and then your language. Right around there, before you do the Microsoft account, that's when the customer was getting the issue, and then where I was seeing it too. All right. We're not going to worry about a product key for now. Doesn't meet the requirements. It's probably TPM is disabled. Let's see if it'll let us do it. Keep in mind, it's DDR3 1600. Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad card or, you know, a bad setup. It's just you're limited in some capacity. That's kind of the always issue. Any type of issue when you're dealing with older hardware. All right, let's pop into the BIOS and make sure TPM is enabled. It might have changed when we did that CMOS reset. So usually you need secure boot enabled, and then you need the TPM module needs to be turned on. Now it's trying to load. Not gonna work. All right. So again, anybody just tuning in now, basically what we were having an issue with was we had the graphic, we were having an issue with, kind of two issues. One was this motherboard, for whatever reason, was causing the customer to only being able to use the last DDR4 slot. And then the other issue, the other main issue that was going on was that, let me go ahead and TPM is enabled. Let's see, is there any other things that need to be enabled on here? But basically, what was going on was we were getting into the Windows installation media. Get past that part, once Windows is installed, there was an error basically where if you drag the mouse, you're getting this kind of trailing effect along the outer border, which is basically, it was kind of a pretty big concern, and it was very slow in loading that. So basically what we're trying to do now is figuring that out. We've already resolved the issue with the RAM issue. So just going through and making sure that we can go ahead and trust the computing is enabled. Okay. And everything should be ready to go. We have, looks like everything's enabled here. All right, I don't know why we were getting that error. The system should have no reason installing Windows 11. And let me just check the Windows, they were doing Windows 10 Home or Pro. It's a home license. There we go. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and try on my drive here. This is really what we're checking now, is if it's a possibility we're just dealing with a bad drive. All right, so we got a couple minutes right now, just waiting for it. So if anybody has questions or anything you guys want to talk about, let me know. You know, we can run over some projects I'm working on, if that's something you want to do. Hey, no worries. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, I kind of just, you know, it was kind of a last minute thing, the timing and everything, but, you know, I will try to figure out some kind of regular schedule, but a lot of times the PCs I get where they're, you know, a good thing to do a live stream on, you know, it's up and down when you're gonna see something like that. Some of the repairs make sense for, you know, short form content, but some of these are, yeah, absolutely. So everything I've tried. So the customer brought in this system. They also brought in another motherboard, graphics card, RAM. They have tested with all of it, and they were getting two main issues. First off, on this motherboard setup, they were getting only the 4th DIMM slot to work. We were able to resolve that by resetting the CPU. However, the customer also had an issue with the Windows installation. So when Windows was trying to be installed, you know, we were getting an error where we're kind of getting that trailing effect. And what was happening there, we went ahead and tried swapping, you know, right now we haven't done too much. We're swapping the SSD right now to see if we can do a different installation. Just because that was the only thing the customer hasn't swapped before. We were trying to resolve, so we should just, I think it tried to boot to the wrong device. So yeah, it's kind of, you know, the customer had done the GPU already, they had done RAM, so I really doubted that. You know, we have the power supply, but the power supply seems to be, yeah, well, I think it was just that one of the pins wasn't seated properly. If I had to bet, just based on, as soon as you reseat something like that and it comes, you know, comes back, because basically if you did anything else, you were getting that 0D error. That's kind of it's really a pain of an error. So what we're doing now is just working on seeing if a clean install on a clean device will make a difference. We just want to make sure that the drive shows up. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, that was the thing I was thinking about, because the CPU, but the customer said the CPU had been tried. So that's kind of a, you know, they had tried it, they had already swapped it. They didn't have another one, but I think they had swapped into the motherboard or something like that. And this motherboard had already been deployed. I'm pretty sure this was already being used in a different rig. Oh, did Windows not finish installing? I thought Windows actually installed there. Maybe not. But yeah, so it's kind of been a going back and forth a lot right here, trying to figure things out. All right. Possibly. I haven't played around too much with the BIOS settings. I did try loading optimized defaults. We also did a CMOS reset, so we should have been able to clear out any configurations that were, unwanted or, possibly could be causing issues. So that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, I mean there could be a few other minor things that could be causing issues like this, but let's see. So we're gonna try. All right, let's get Windows installed. I thought it had installed before, but for some reason it didn't. Why are we getting an issue? Does not meet the minimum requirements to install Windows. I thought that's weird. We just tried it a second ago and it let us pass. It's gotta be a TPM issue maybe. Let's shut off. I'm trying to remember what I didn't check. I'm pretty sure I checked all the TPM settings. If there's anything I missed, let me know, guys. But I'm pretty certain TPM was enabled. Let's see real quick. We have maybe that's it. I think that might have been enabled wrong. I think it might have been the option for TPM having the discrete module rather than the firmware. All right, let's see if we can get Windows installed now. That might have been it because when Windows could have detected that there wasn't TPM after it. I don't know why it let us through for a second and then kind of just threw us around, kind of in a circle there. Yeah, has anybody seen that issue with Windows 11 on the install having kind of that trailing effect? Because that was something that was very odd. I haven't seen on the Windows install yet. I've seen it inside of Windows, but actually in the process of getting Windows installed, when you actually boot onto the SSD. What is it? What is it not like? Let's go ahead and that should be fine. Let me double check. I think I just have to have TPM enabled for this one, because this is a 5600X, which should definitely be supported, so there shouldn't be a hardware issue. Okay, so we need advanced. Supersona, how are you doing? Yeah, I know. But the customer was wanting Windows 11. Just don't know why that was being weird like that. You should just need to enable on the configuration. Nothing should have to be done here. I thought I changed that before. Let's try that. Let me just double check for ASUS. Really want to continue. Hey, no worries. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. You can watch the VOD later. Hey, well, I'm glad you're stopping by. This is my first live PC repair, but I'm gonna do more of these because they're really fun to work on. Let's go ahead and see. I can go ahead and pull up. All right, let's see if it'll take it now. Hey, we'll just watch the videos. That's the best way to do it. Just kind of just learn. That's the best way you can do it. Get your hands on with equipment when you can. So you're still getting the does not meet the requirements. Not sure why we'd be getting this. We can try with the other installation media just in case we got something else going on. Let's go ahead and shut down. Just restart. So this is saying from ASUS, so it should be on firmware TPM. So let's go ahead and make sure that's right. Enable firmware TPM. That is on. You guys can see. So let's just restart. Let's see if there's, maybe it's just a bad Windows install. It's a Ryzen system. This is a Ryzen 5 5600X, and this graphics card that's in here is a 3060. The other card that the customer brought in, I'm not sure what it is. It's an MSI card. What do we got here? 3060 Ti. So that's our other option, depending on how things go. So we can go ahead and try to get Windows installed now. See, we're still getting minimum requirements. Let me just double check. Shouldn't be any errors there. Ryzen 40 series BIOS causing a lot of. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be a BIOS issue, but this is the latest. I think this is on the latest version of the BIOS. I think it's a. The release was just like a month back, so it shouldn't, I really doubt, be causing too many issues, but let me go ahead and double check. So we have a TPM module enabled. Let's see. All right, flip over, take a quick look. Yeah, so we're on a release from 2/3/2023. So that's BIOS version 4402. TPM enabled. Not sure why we're not able to install Windows right now. Let's see, we got few. Those are all right. And we have to be on secure boot, has to be enabled. All right, let's try that. Let's see, Windows 11. Clean the storage. Yeah, I mean, basically, which one, for what issue are you talking about? With the installation issue or the screen tearing? See, we're still getting the exact same issue. I'm not sure we have all the minimum requirements. We have TPM. Yeah, no, the screen, yeah, the screen tearing is from earlier. Basically, we're trying to do on a different SSD. Here, let me show you what was happening real quick. Here, let's go back to what we were dealing with before. I'm not sure why the installation's been weird, but let me move some stuff out of the way. So what we're having is on this drive. This is the customer's drive. It's kind of hard to show on camera, but I can show you the best I can. Let's take a look. And I'm going to see if I can figure out what's causing the Windows not to let us install it. Let's take a look. All right, it's firing up. Yeah, the issue is in the title. We're not getting display. Let's restart. It's like we're stuck. Let's take a look here. Well, it's not. We're not using VSync. We're inside. We're like, it's basically the installation process is where you get the issue. You know, when you put in your region and keyboard, you know, your keyboard language, that's when the error occurs. Oh, now we're not getting a boot. So I've been going for about an hour and 25 minutes. Let's see. So we get the ASUS logo. All right, it's trying to repair. All right, let's let that load for a second. But I do want to see if it'll actually load up. Yeah. Let's go ahead and just hit restart. That's just because basically anytime you restart your computer multiple times or shut it off while it's trying to load, I think it's 3 times in a row or 3 consistent times without it loading in the Windows, it will go to that blue screen. So if you ever see that, it is not necessarily a huge concern right away. It's kind of different than some of the other blue screens you may see, and it's often thought of as the end of the world, but sometimes it can just be that your system just failed to boot for whatever reason. Oh. Let's go. Oh, we need LAN for this. I think it was just the, so here's where we're at. So we are here, and this is where we were getting the issue before. So if I would take the mouse, yeah, if you guys can see that, it's like almost like the pixels, they turn white wherever the mouse is. You see that? I don't know, it's really hard to show because I have to keep it tilted enough where I can see it. But so it is installed on the client's drive. But this is the weird thing. If you see this here, there's like if I basically move the mouse around, you get these like white tearing lines. And this is what I've been trying to figure out what's going on. So it's kind of like a really weird situation here. So that's what. Careful, yeah, no, it's fine. So that's kind of that's kind of what's going on. It is it has some kind of artifact and tearing, but it's with movement. And I can actually go through this, but it's just super slow. If you just watch the animations, they're way slower than they normally are with things. So like this process usually it's a little faster, which is why I did want to try to install on a different drive, but I don't know why we are getting stuck without being able to install it. So what I can do, let me think. I'm gonna think if I have a system that has Windows 11 already installed on it. So that system's Windows 10. Trying to think if I'm just thinking if I have a Windows. What GPU is it? Yeah, so we can try swapping the GPU, but we could try setting up. That would be the other option. We can, I already tried connecting a different power supply to this graphics card. But that was before we reseated the CPU. So that's something we can try. And the customer already tried a different GPU. And I can grab the other one I just had out. And we can try that right now. So let's try that. Yeah, I mean, we can try on Windows 10 if we need to, and then we can try to just do the upgrade path. And that may be a way to go around it. Yeah, we talked about it the other day, but yeah, I don't like Windows 11 either, but this is what the customer wants, so let's do this. Let's swap this card out for this 3060 Ti. Fortunately, we have this here. I do think it possibly could be storage related, but it's kind of a tricky situation with how far it was able to get up to then. And this is a new drive, so yeah. Yeah, really do not like how tight this case is with getting a graphics card on a larger motherboard with the kind of covers over the audio equipment. It's personal. Yes, it is very personal. I feel like most people are on the same page. I mean, I do see some of the benefits. I have a couple systems on Windows 11, but main system is not for kind of all the same purposes why people don't like it. So that's loading up pretty quick. Let's take a look. Are we going to get that same issues? Ooh, wait. Driver's trying to load, I think. Well, we just lost power, or we just lost video out. Maybe it is power, because that weird thing was I just saw the card, the fans on the card shut off, turn back on, shut off, turn back on, and then we got that issue. That's interesting. Yeah, that's how I always feel. Like, oh my gosh, we got one thing done and boom. But that was good, because when it did load, it loaded how it was supposed to, and we weren't getting artifacting, which I am very happy about. But we do need to figure out if maybe we're dealing with power. Because, we could have had some kind of combination issue when we were dealing with the previous setup. So let's just try one more restart and see if it'll load. And I want to keep an eye on these fans. I know they probably have a 0 RPM fan mode on this Zotac card, but it's usually rare for those to turn on, turn off. So look now, 0, 0. The power supply is 500, so it is not a very powerful one, but we're only on the 5600X and a 3060 Ti. It should be enough, like at least to handle most things. But yeah, look, it's getting nothing. Back to 0, 0. Okay, let's bring that power supply back into the situation. So this is a 750 watt unit. Be absolutely plenty. Yeah, I mean, I normally would recommend 650, but you should be able to run with 500. I mean, unless there was no overclock, because remember, we have already reset the BIOS. So you know, we cleared all those settings that could have possibly had some kind of overclock, which could pull more wattage, but I'm pretty sure with the actual rating, we are in the clear. All right, so that's connected. Connect this up. I mean, these motherboards, yeah, they can consume a lot of extra wattage where they can send a little extra, but we should be okay. And this power supply should be more than enough. It's my tried and true. So I know, and we couldn't always put in a watt meter if we need to. So I have one of these devices. If you guys don't have one of these, I really recommend them. Basically, it's like an electricity monitor. Let's let that load up. But basically, it's an electricity monitor that basically will display the wattage you're pulling from the wall. Really, really helpful for diagnosing things. So for a laptop specifically, sometimes knowing if there is you know, if power is actually being pulled from the wall or something like that is really helpful to know, you know, if the system's charging or maybe we're dealing with a bad cord or a bad charge port. But it's kind of a really cool tool. I always have one of these on hand, and they're a great little tester that I love to use. That along with the battery tester that will do coin batteries, because those CMOS batteries, the CR2032s, they fail really often. All right, so are we getting artifacts? Yes, we are. That is okay. So that is artifacting with my power supply that I know is good. The graphics card I know is good. So that is very odd. Let's yeah, so you see that it's still going. So we're gonna try something else. So it may be, oh, there's an extra 4-pin. Let's just plug that in. I mean, the customer said they had used this. Yeah, if we need to, I will pull out a system. But I want to do one more thing first. I don't think it's his graphics card. At this point, I don't believe that's the case. Yeah, so one of the options is to do go through the entire process with the issue, get into Windows, perform a driver install, and go from there. But right now we are on my graphics card and my power supply. And we can even swap to my RAM in a second. But yep, it's back. Still getting the artifact trailing screen tearing. Yeah, let's try swapping this RAM back real quick. So this is my testing RAM. I use all the time. You've probably seen them in videos before. But it works. Still not sure why Microsoft wasn't letting us install Windows 11. Which what we may have to do is, if we install Windows if we install Windows 10 and then just try upgrading. I don't think it's the display. This happened on the customer's display. They had tried on 2 or 3 monitors, I believe. And this monitor doesn't have any issues. This is... Yeah, we can try running off of a different port, but the only reason I would doubt that is, look, this is my graphics card. The monitor is old, but I don't believe that's to be the issue because I've never had this issue on... I built with this monitor hundreds of computers just on this desk here. So that's the only reason I kind of doubt it. So I mean, in the customer, like they said, they had tried that. In DisplayPort, only reason I'm not jumping on that right away is the issue with, you know, it's my graphics card, so it's I don't believe that would cause the issue on both of ours. One of our HDMI's got to be the PCIe port, like the actual cable or the slot. The slot is a possibility, and I can test that. We can move it down to the second slot and see. That might be something we try next. System's like getting stuck with no display out right now. Yeah. Oh, there we go. We got something there. Hey, thanks for coming back. Yeah, it's been kind of a weird diagnostic today. Just because we change one thing, something works. No, I gotta do. We can do that. I was trying one more thing because I don't want to do Windows 10 and then all of a sudden the blue screen that we got, that real temporary one, can be CPU, but they said they swapped the CPU, so I kind of doubt it. I do have another Ryzen CPU right here. This is just a 3100, so kind of a basic CPU, but yeah, it's kind of getting in a loop right now. See, like it's failing. There we go. Oh. Yeah, it just crashed. Now we're stuck at 0, right there. That is interesting. Do you have a drive with Windows 10 that works? Yeah, let's take this drive. So this is a drive. So I have a drive with Windows 11 we can go to. And maybe we might do that. But let's first do this drive here. This has Windows 10. It's kind of just a test bench drive. Actually, we need power. See, the thing is, the CPU pins were fine. I looked at them about in 30 minutes to an hour ago. They seem to be just fine. Yeah, no, I do. I've gone through pretty much everything that they have already done, just as a precaution, but do always like to take that into some consideration for things I try first. Sometimes they can be, you never know. You never know in these situations. I really thought it was probably going to be power when he first described the issue to me. All right, so Windows 10 is loading. I want to see inside of Windows 10 with this setup because we were getting, I don't need disk skipping or disk checking. Within Windows 11, the installation media, once we got past the install, actually not the installation media, but the actual installation process. Yeah, the revert BIOS, I do want to look up the latest BIOS version for this system. Yeah, so this is my, look, we're getting artifacting here too. Huh, so it's not drive. I don't know if you guys can see that. Hopefully you can. Take a look at this. Let me go ahead and close out all this other junk in the background. But basically, getting the exact same issue that we were getting before inside of the installation. That's odd. So we are a MyRAM that I know that works. I'm power supply and GPU that I know that work. At this point, it's very easy to see with the blue background. Yeah, this is kind of the weird. Yeah, well, I'm glad. I'm sorry it was kind of hard to see earlier, but this whole thing it's weird with how it kind of just, it's like almost like a paintbrush. It's like spray paint. So let's try the second PCIe slot. And then we can go to CPU. We can go to one of these 3100. Because I know this works. I actually had to put this in a system for something a while back. So let's just shut down. And I know it's like I'm drawing. I'm just making art. Yeah, see, this is my RAM. So I have tried their RAM, which are these two sticks right here. The customer had given me another 4 sticks of Corsair Vengeance Pro RGB. Haven't tried these, but they had tried those. Plus, I tried some Corsair RAM. And the Ballistix RAM in here, this just came off my test bench. So, or one of my test benches. So the test bench that I did the video adding the car radiator, it was working. No, don't feel bad. I am happy to hear it. I want to hear what you guys think of maybe going on, because honestly, it's really helpful to kind of have somebody to bounce things off of. So I really appreciate that. So yeah, no, it's no big deal. It's kind of, and unless you see the entire thing, it's kind of hard to know exactly what was going on. But basically, I'm happy to kind of run through this each time, just because it is kind of really important to kind of figure this out, and hopefully maybe we can help some other people whenever, you know, somebody else has this exact same issue. So let's go ahead and check the second PCIe slot. Again, this is a known good graphics card, known good RAM, known good power supply. All right, let's go ahead and let's fire up. And we want to go back into that Windows 10 environment and see if maybe we get something a little different. Oh, shoot, we're missing video. You know, every time I feel like I swap things out, I always forget the video cable. That's always like the last thing. Does anybody else do that? You're like, you're plugging everything else in, you check everything, and all of a sudden you miss a video. It's like the easiest cable to plug in and one that'll often be forgotten. So we're on a bunch of different air codes here. Let me see if I can show you guys. Yeah, I mean, this is a really high-end board. Sorry about that, guys. I just had to cough for a second. All right. Doesn't seem to be working on the second slot. All right, let's restart. Might have just been, yeah, it was just a one-time thing, it looks like. Yeah, it does give you a really good idea. I mean, yeah, but this is, yeah, so here's a good idea to kind of see all this in action. And I wish I had like a way to like recap every single person that comes in. That'd be really cool. I don't know why it wants to check that drive for skipping, but all right. All right, here's the test. Still drawing on the screen. Wait. Sorry, guys, got you on the wrong one. There we go. Same thing. Worth it? Depends who you are. If you can afford it, it's pretty great. But, you know, there's probably better things you can do with the money. I mean, the only thing I would... Yes, it is now time for the CPU. So let's go ahead and throw in this 3100. And we'll test that out. You know, I would be really shocked if that was costing it all, but you never know. And at that point, if not that, we're at a motherboard level. And luckily we do have another motherboard, but we would have to pull everything out. So let's hope for that. But we are on all my hardware, so we are in probably the best scenario to know for sure. All right, let's go ahead and shut down and look, I can even draw on the shutdown screen. It's like a bunch of QR codes. Yes, it is always, yeah. Worth it is always, depends who you are. Depends if you can, you know, if you can afford it, yeah. Yeah, it really depends. I don't have a 4080 in my system. It's not I honestly don't have a lot of time for gaming just because of all the videos and all the other stuff I do, and all these jobs. But, you know, if I could, yeah, sure. If it was free, I would absolutely have one. But I don't think I would pay, you know, over $1,000 for a 4080. What do I have in my system? So my personal rig, I'm still rocking a 1070 Ti. So I'm kind of, I held out during all the crazy price increases just because I haven't really had a need to go to a latest gen. I don't, you know, I have a 2070 that's actually was given to me by a customer. And it was just, but that's like a test card. That's the one I used for that laptop gaming with a desktop GPU. Yeah, it's not bad of a price. Doesn't sound that bad. Well, 32 gigabytes of RAM, if you're that high end, I probably would. Kind of odd somebody to pay for that and sell it for so cheap. I mean, oh, little thermal paste goop fell off. Oh, yeah. I mean that's a pretty beast of a system, especially if you can afford it. There's not much else, you know. That type of experience is, you'll definitely you'll enjoy it. It's just, you know, the price is high, but it sounds like you're getting a good deal. I'd have to double check the pricing on everything. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I would look what the actual breakdown is. Make sure if you're buying a system from somebody that you do not know, make sure they put in a good power supply. Just because when you are, you know, you have the system for a year, 2 years, and you have a power supply that goes out, it can take a graphics card down with it, and that will be not a fun month. Or fun day, depending on how complex the issue is. Just got to get this little bit of thermal paste that fell off the CPU. There we go. Perfect. So let me go ahead and grab this other CPU and we'll swap it out. Okay, I got my PC. Okay, let me see what we're doing. What's your plan for? Oh, for his system? Yeah, I mean, that really depends too, if it's worth it for you. And did a few modifications. Yeah, the thing is, sometimes you can find deals. And if you are going to buy secondhand, sometimes there's enthusiasts that will build things, play with the hardware, and just want to get off their hands, and they'll just take a loss at the expense of the fun that they enjoyed from it. What else are you guys saying? Yeah, that's the only thing. Warranties don't always transfer. And when they don't, and honestly, I wish they did, because it would be way better for, especially hardware like PC hardware that does get traded quite often, or like, you know, so often I feel like hardware gets, move between people. I would ask you, is the guy a company or is he just, does he just do it himself? Because if he's a company, he might be able to handle some of your RMAs that, for instance, like I handle some RMAs for some of my customers. If they, let's say, they have me build a computer for them and they have an issue and, they need me to deal with just getting a warranty part, I help take care of that. Because often if they don't bring in the parts or depending on the situation, I will have to supply them. And so I always, I can do that because they know who I am and everything like that. So I would consider something like that as well when you are buying this, to make sure you have an option to warranty it if possible. Because maybe the guy will help you out. Let's just throw some thermal paste on here. Won't need a whole lot. Especially for the CPU, it doesn't have basically no power. Ooh. Super runny. Let's see what else you guys saying. The PC for free, knowing it had a problem. All they said. Yeah, see, I mean, that's awesome when you can get a PC for free. Luckily in my situation, I am very fortunate to have customers that will, some customers just don't need the hardware anymore, they will hand some stuff off to me. That's how I'm able to actually make a lot of videos I do. It's just because, I'll have some hardware that's older. Some of my business clients, they have, once they have an upgrade, everything that they had in there is just no longer needed, and it's just going to take up space for them, and they don't want to deal with getting rid of it. So I'm very fortunate for those clients, because some of the videos you guys have seen have been some of the hardware that they have graciously, given or handed over. Let's see. All right. CPU is installed. All right, so we just got to plug in the fan. And, all right. So everything else is plugged in. We can move this guy back up to this first slot. All right, so let's plug that in. Plug in our power. All right, we are good to turn on. And we can check the artifacting now. Go ahead and throw this paper towel away, and I'll flip you guys over to the multicam. Two hours in now. It's a long stream, man. So there we go. All right, the system is trying to load. There we go. We take a new preset, yeah. All right, so it detected a new CPU, which is a good sign. Let's test this out. Let's see, what else did you guys say? Yeah, 1440p is gonna be very nice on a 4080. There's not much what you can't run. All right, we are fine. I just need to make sure we are in the right boot order. Yeah, I mean, when you have a 4080, you're pretty set for anything out right now and probably for the next little while. Yeah, ray tracing on 20 series is pretty tough. See, the only okay, so I'm going to test back on the Windows 10 install because again, that was easier for everybody to see, and we'll know without involving his hardware. So at that point, what we want to do is just bring in everything else. Hey, look at that! It's clean, no dragging. So that is a sign of a bad CPU. So it might just be bad processor, which unfortunately we would have to just figure out what the customer wants to do at that point because I don't have a 5600X on hand, so I'd have to order one. Not a big deal, or they can order one if they want. But we clearly have figured out the issue here. That's usually pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's probably the CPU all along. And we can do some kind of BIOS revert if we want. But the thing is, that other CPU, I just don't know how much the BIOS would affect out here. I want to see the outcome. Yeah, I know, exactly. So what I'll do is, let's go ahead and let's switch back over to his drive. Let's see if that works. If that works there, I'm going to be pretty confident. And then I'm going to go ahead, at that point, put all of his hardware back except for my CPU. If we're still good, then I will be fairly confident in making the determination that he has a faulty CPU. So let's go ahead and reboot. Yeah, I know. I really want to show you guys this outcome, and hopefully I can get this all on stream. It might be a little bit longer. I only thought this was going to be an hour and a half stream coming into it, because I was pretty confident coming in that it was going to be something like power supply, RAM, or storage, but clearly that's not the case. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just disconnect the SATA drive, fire the system up with the Windows, basically his SSD that has the installation on it. That was giving us the original issue. My PC restart. Okay. All right. Basically, it's just mad that we were. I mean, it is very rare. Yeah, no, I'm going. Yeah, I'm gonna do more. Definitely more of this type of content. Oh, look at that sputter! It is super smooth. I'm pretty confident that's a CPU issue. Reverted BIOS. Let me make sure everything else works, and then at that point, the board is it should be X570. It's underneath the graphics card. Let me go ahead and shut down and we'll check what motherboard it is. And we can see if there's an E. And if anybody wants to look up if there are any known issues with this board compatibility or anything like that, I really appreciate it, just because I can't do that while streaming. But I do want to be able to actually have that as an ability when we are streaming in the future. So I want to be able to actually pull up, web browser, kind of go through some of the stuff that I will go through. Because sometimes there's things that you honestly just can't explain, or you just, there are certain variables that you can't count on, just getting the answer from just everything that you could store in your brain. So I often have to go ahead and just double check with, some online resources, and I do want to be able to show that, because that is something. Well, guess what? The VOD will be up, so if you do miss it, if you do end up going to bed, and I will absolutely have a VOD up probably by tomorrow, just because it does take time for processing, especially 2 hours. So if you do miss it, guys, just come back. I really appreciate that when you do. And maybe we can even discuss this further if we need to do a follow-up tomorrow for something. I'd have to see if I can how fast I can get a 5600X or a replacement CPU. The customer said they had swapped the CPU, I believe, which is kind of odd that we would be getting a similar issue still. Yeah, we can conclude pretty much mainly a CPU issue. Now we're just making sure that on all of his hardware that we are up and running. Let's go ahead and get this 8-pin up here. It's a little, there we go. Let's pull my graphics card out. I have some builds I'm going to be doing probably within the next week. Those will all be streamed. My plan is to basically make any kind of content, builds, stuff like that, streamed. Just because I think I really like the way, can't sleep soundly, yeah. I really like the ability that this kind of allows me to not only connect with all you guys, but also kind of just share the entire process, rather than just making, a quick video and hoping you guys just enjoy that. But so let's go ahead and connect all this stuff back up. New USB 3. USB 3. This is another connector that still bothers me. It's that USB 3 connector. The 3.1 Gen 2. It's probably worse, but still. All right. We should be completely plugged in to know kind of our conclusion here. That was a pretty fast boot. Oh shoot, oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? The customer, where did I put my phone down? But my customer actually had texted me it. So let me, did he tell me? We can get it from the BIOS. That's how we can do it. If this works, I'll get it from the BIOS. All right. We are clean. Look at that. We are no issues with the mouse cursor. After swapping the CPU, I mean, the only reason why the CPU does make a lot of sense is at this point, we had that issue with the RAM originally. Oh, I haven't done his RAM, but let's shut down here. Let's go in the BIOS. We'll get your information that you want to know. And then and we will wrap up probably, just because I'll be waiting to hear what the customer wants to do. And then maybe we'll finish, maybe we'll conclude with this, maybe with a follow-up stream or something, just putting in the new CPU and talking about it. But we'll see. So, all right. We're in the BIOS. So we are on, where is the, what board is this? Okay, so this is a ROG Crosshair 8 Dark Hero. So this is a really high-end board. But yeah, so that is the motherboard there. And if we just boot onto his drive, we will know with his RAM, graphics card, power supply, everything else connected, if we were just dealing with a bad CPU all along. And any other questions or anything you guys want me to follow up on, let me know. But we are pretty much, just concluding things right now. I really want to thank everybody for stopping by. It's been kind of a great Saturday stream. And I'm gonna have plenty more of these coming soon. Look at that. No issue at all. Completely smooth mouse movement, which is exactly what I was looking for. So, with all that said, guys, it looks like we were just dealing with a bad Ryzen 5 5600X. I'll be talking to the customer about that. And then what I'll probably do is we'll go ahead and just follow up either with a stream or a video or something, kind of concluding the entire situation. It might be, it might be a short form video. It just depends on what the situation's like, and if what the customer wants to do exactly. But at least from now, we know that we're just dealing with a bad CPU, and I just want to say thank you guys for coming out. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next stream. See you guys later.